What does Camp Bethel mean to me? My name's Richard Henegar. I go by Rick, or Rick. And Camp Bethel to me means home. It means neighbor. It means Church of the Brethren. It means Mother Nature, nature therapy, trails, fellowship, fun, family, a wilderness playground, Wilson's Creek Adventure Village, ropes course, so many things Camp Bethel means to me. Camp Bethel means forgiveness, because Miss Hannah's going to forgive me for turning this in late. I just rode my bike past Camp Bethel for the I don't know how many times this week, but then I was reminded I'm supposed to make this video, so here we are before I forget again. Camp Bethel has been a great neighbor to me over the past, I don't know, decade, and it's my honor to spend the rest of my life being neighborly with these folks and helping them in any way that I can. Peace, love you guys, Camp Bethel. Keep up the great work.
Camp for me has always been a home. It came at a time in my life where I needed a home, and it's been really important to me ever since. I've known I can always come back here, and that's been a really important part of my growth over the last 10 years. I was really lucky. Camp actually ended up being a gift to me in a literal way. I was gifted my first summer here as a teenager from a friend of mine. They paid for me to come to camp, and that's when I really first experienced sort of the magic that happens here at camp. That's the first summer I kind of felt that the power of that inclusiveness and that family atmosphere. So when I started my first summer here, I experienced that togetherness, that inclusiveness that was so vibrant and powerful and impactful. And I knew I wanted more of that, and I was encouraged to apply for a staff position, and I did so. And seeing it even from the other side was even more impactful. Being a part of the staff family, while also kind of turning outward and providing that family for so many different children, and even people that hadn't been to camp for years, or had been coming to camp for years or decades or more, and just kind of that family growing and growing and growing was such a powerful experience that I continued to want to be a part of it. So I came back for several years, and I still love to come back and help in any way I can. I remember after my first week as a counselor, doing this work was a lot harder than I anticipated. But I remember going back to clean the cabins with my cabin co-counselors, and they were all, several years older than me, and just having them come in and just cleaning the cabin together and just joking around and stuff like that was such an uplifting experience. And that seems like such a trivial little thing, but I was like, man, that was a rough week, just because it's hard work, and you get used to it. But and having that experience was a great sort of cap for that first week. And I said, well, there's a lot here that is so valuable, and it continues to be week after week, and kind of kept me going a lot.
It's happiness. It's fun for every camper that comes through, but Camp Too Sweet is a little bit different. Why am I crying? They have fun no matter what the disease is, no matter the situation. The long nights and the med staff is a little daunting, but they all want to do it just to spend time with the counselor. Especially our unit has learned so much, and hopefully they come back and work for Camp Bethel. But overall, Camp Too Sweet is just more so about, like, you know, regardless of what the day is or the highs or the lows or the fries being done or not, they're still having fun. They're never pushed to do anything. Yeah. And I think that's the fun part. And I love Camp Too Sweet too much.
Oh,
not me crying.
That's not possible.
I love it way too much.
Well, we love you, DJ.
Oh,
thank you
so much. No, I'm gonna stop crying.
So Camp Too Sweet is our most fun, most stressful week of the year, but we do it because it's an opportunity for kids with diabetes to be together and be in a space where they're not standing out, they're not alienated, everybody's doing the same thing. Some of our kids are in schools where they might be the only kid with diabetes, so when we're at camp, everybody's the same and we're all dealing with similar things. And they support each other, and the friendships that grow out of that are amazing. Like, they don't necessarily go to the same school, but they keep in touch after camp and in between summers, and I think that support is just invaluable. Camp Too Sweet here at Camp Bethel is great because it's just such a beautiful campus, and we have so many activities to choose from, so they just get to do all kinds of cool stuff that they might not get an opportunity to do otherwise, and all kind of in the safety and security of having medical support day and night, so that families can feel secure when their kids are away from them. For some of them, it's their first time away from home, so understandably there's a lot of anxiety that goes along with that. So we can provide an opportunity for the kids to be here and have fun, and families can kind of take a break, and everybody gets to have a little independence during that week, and the kids learn more about how to manage their own diabetes and grow, hopefully, from that.
Camp for me has been great. I believe this is my 8th or 9th year coming back, and it really has been a home away from home for me. Like, you always, every year, there's new campers and everything like that, and you always manage to build just this bond that you can't get really anywhere else. You know, like, you only spend a week with each other, but in that week, you become best friends, you know, and I think that's unbeatable.
I mean, I've only been coming to camp for 3 years, but, you know, I met some of my best friends here, and I mean, this is what really brought me to Camp Bethel in the first place, so, yeah.
I have so many memories at Camp Bethel. Back in the old days, before there were parent-child overnights, there was a weekend that was Dads and Lads Camp, and another weekend that was Mother-Daughter Camp, and I remember going with my mom. That was a special time. Then when I was old enough, I went as a camper for a week for many years with my brother and 2 cousins. What fun we had. Great food, including Lois Barrier's homemade yeast rolls, the crafts, hiking to Horseshoe Bend, lots of Foursquare, so much singing, talent shows, swimming, including the polar bear swims, and lots of laughter. And of course, the wonderful worships at morning watch, on Vesper Hill, and at campfires. My church had church family camp on the 3rd weekend in May for many years, and those were also special times, and some of those were when I introduced my wee ones to Camp Bethel. They went to Tenderfoot camps, and then when 2 of them were a little nervous about going for a week, I went as an adult counselor 3 times, and I enjoyed that just as I had as a kid. They had just introduced Home in the Woods, and nobody had any idea what that was going to be. And how much fun is creek stomping and face painting with rocks, and again, some really special worships. And now I've been part of Pilgrimage for over 20 years, which is a weekend retreat that is also held at Camp Bethel, which everyone should attend. And again, so many wonderful memories from that. So yes, Camp Bethel is a special place in my life, not just because of the great memories, but because for me, it is holy ground. I know that God is always with us everywhere we go, but there are some places where if you pay attention, His presence is more obvious and it's easy to feel Him near. And one of those places for me is Camp Bethel.
Hey friends! As one of the thousands of people that went through the gates of Camp Bethel as a camper and then later on as a staff, I wanted to share with you all what Camp Bethel has meant to me over the years and still continues to mean to me. Camp Bethel was the very first place that I remember going to where I realized people were encouraged and celebrated for being their 100% authentic self. In a world where there are thousands of influences all around trying to push us into thinking and acting and expressing ourselves in one particular way or the other, Camp Bethel was a place where I remember my counselors and later on my co-counselors and my co-workers who became my dearest friends. I just remember that there was such a spirit among us of truly loving who we each were, respecting who we each were, and that trickled down, of course, into the campers that we worked with, and I know my counselors showed me that when I was a camper at Camp Bethel. Just this seemingly open-armed, open-hearted, open-minded approach to everyone who passed through the gates of Camp Bethel, wanting you to be who God created you to be. And camp also did a really good job of helping us to see God in all of the people that were around us, the creation that was around us, and how God just lived in the differences that existed. And I love Camp Bethel so much for that reason. There's nothing that youth and children need more right now than that kind of ministry, a ministry of open arms and acceptance and love for who they are, and an eagerness to see them become what God created them to be. So that is what I learned from Camp Bethel. That is what I love about Camp Bethel. And that is why I worked with and went to Camp Bethel for so many, many years, because I love that element of Camp Bethel, that DNA of who they are. And I loved seeing all of the kids and the youth who came through in those years that I was there. I loved seeing them feel that for themselves. You could see it really touch their hearts, touch their souls. And when they left Camp Bethel, you knew that that feeling was going to go with them out into the world, back home, wherever they had come from, and they would have that to cling on to, that glimpse of light that we were so fortunate to experience at Camp Bethel. So that's what Camp Bethel means to me, and that's why I love Camp Bethel and the people there and the spirit that exists in that place. That's it. Bye.
Buddy Crumpacker came to Camp Bethel in the early 1950s as a first-time camper. Through his continuing connection to Camp Bethel over the next 70-plus years, he grew to love God at the deepest part of his heart. Over his lifetime, before his death in 2021, he served in many capacities. As a resident employee, a camp committee member, a lifetime volunteer, and when he retired, he served as a part-time staff member, and anything else in between. After his debilitating stroke in 2017, he even showed up in his wheelchair to help split wood on work day, smiles and all. He loved seeing lives blessed at Camp Bethel, and he wanted to do all he could to make camp a better place for all those who entered the gates. One memorable time at camp for Buddy and me was June 14th, 2003, our 40th wedding anniversary, when we renewed our vows and celebrated with over 100 friends in the Hillside Auditorium and the Shelter by the Spring. So, all ages, young and old, and all in between, can meet God at beautiful Camp Bethel. Support our Camp Bethel through energy, participation, and donation. How will you join? Hey, let's get together and scrapbook. That's how it started. First thing you know, someone wanted to invite their best friend, and another wanted to invite her sister-in-law, and another her cousin and her mom. As a result, in 2002, 14 of us gathered at Camp Bethel for 2 days of scrapbooking, sharing, visiting, walking, eating, and laughing. 22 years later, we come for 4 days. Scrapbooking and crafting have become incidental, and our primary goal is sharing, visiting, laughing, crying, eating, supporting each other, and just to experience God's presence and peace in this little bit of heaven. We have traveled from at least 9 states plus District of Columbia, from as far away as Florida in the south to Pennsylvania in the north. Friendships and creativity have flourished at Camp Bethel in March every year for the last 22 years.
I think I was about 10 or 11 and came down to spend a week. And I stayed in Lamont, which is now a storage area. And the first people I remember meeting was Dan Brogan, and then his future wife, Eleanor Spangler. And I don't know whether they went to the same church at that time or not. I don't know. But the weird thing about the whole thing is later on my cousin married Dan's brother, Bill Brogan. So Dan and Eleanor are basically kind of like family too. But I only came to camp 2 or 3 years. But then in the 90s, David Miller got up one Sunday and announced the camp needed volunteers to work with the Kinder Critter program. And my husband and I worked with it for about 10 years, I think. And he loved working with the kids, driving the tractor and pointing out different things, because he was raised in Body Type. And I worked with the story and the nature store, and then doing the craft with the kids. And we had a good time once, and we got to meet a lot of different people that way too. So I've been kind of hanging out here for the last too many years, but I love it down here. It's just a great place. There's been a lot of changes in all these years, but all for the better. So, and my grandsons came down here for 11 years running.
Oh, wow.
So I was hoping they were going to be counselors, but neither one of them were interested in that. But they would still come down and help out if we needed them. And then one year they did Heritage Day, and then we dressed up like old Dunkards. And my husband looked like a Dunkard from the word go, with the beard and everything. And he made his own outfit, to pick this collar off of the shirt to wear. And he liked it down here too.